Master Sergeant John Chapman's heroic actions during the Battle of Takur Ghar in Afghanistan on March 4, 2002, stand as one of the most extraordinary displays of courage and self-sacrifice in modern military history, a story that, despite its significance, remains largely untold in mainstream media. The battle, part of Operation Anaconda, unfolded in the rugged, snow-covered mountains of eastern Afghanistan, where Chapman, a highly trained U.S. Air Force combat controller, was embedded with SEAL Team 6 to provide critical air support and tactical coordination. The mission was to establish an overwatch position on the 10,000-foot peak of Takur Ghar, but disaster struck when their MH-47 Chinook helicopter, call sign Razor 03, was hit by a rocket-propelled grenade, RPG, during an initial insertion attempt, forcing the pilots to make a hard landing in a hostile valley below. In the chaos, Petty Officer First Class Neil Roberts was thrown from the helicopter onto the enemy-infested mountaintop, leaving him isolated and exposed. Understanding the dire situation, Chapman and the SEAL team immediately volunteered to return and rescue Roberts, knowing they were flying into a near-suicidal fight. As their second helicopter approached the landing zone, it was met with a devastating barrage of machine gun and RPG fire, forcing them to drop the team under heavy fire before pulling away.
Upon landing, Chapman and the SEALs found themselves in a brutal, close-quarters firefight against a well-entrenched enemy force that outnumbered them and held the high ground. Despite the overwhelming odds, Chapman immediately took charge of directing close air support, calling in devastating airstrikes to suppress enemy positions while simultaneously engaging fighters with his rifle. Early in the battle, he was severely wounded by enemy fire but refused to retreat, continuing to fight with relentless determination. At one critical moment, he single-handedly assaulted an enemy bunker, killing 2 Al-Qaeda fighters in hand-to-hand combat and clearing a path for his teammates. As the firefight intensified, the SEAL team leader was mortally wounded, and the situation grew increasingly desperate. Realizing that Roberts was still missing and likely captured or killed, Chapman made the fateful decision to break cover and advance, alone through a hail of gunfire to locate him.
Unbeknownst to his teammates, who were forced to retreat under heavy fire, Chapman survived the initial withdrawal and continued fighting for over an hour, as later confirmed by drone footage and post-battle analysis. The thermal imaging from a Predator drone overhead captured Chapman's lone stand. Despite his grievous injuries, he engaged multiple enemy positions, moving between cover to suppress advancing fighters and protect the remaining SEALs. At one point, he was seen dragging himself across the snow to a new fighting position, where he engaged in another ferocious close-quarters battle. The footage revealed that, in his final moments, Chapman was attacked by an enemy fighter who emerged from a bunker. Despite his weakened state, Chapman fought back, engaging in a brutal hand-to-hand struggle before being overpowered. His actions, however, had bought critical time for a Quick Reaction Force, QRF, to arrive and eventually secure the mountaintop. Chapman's heroism was initially recognized with the Air Force Cross, but years later, after an exhaustive review of drone footage, radio transmissions, and eyewitness accounts, it became clear that his actions were far beyond what had been originally understood. The evidence showed that Chapman had knowingly re-engaged the enemy after being separated from his team, fully aware that he was likely going to die, in order to protect his comrades and complete the mission. In 2018, his award was upgraded to the Medal of Honor, making him the first Air Force recipient of the nation's highest military decoration since the Vietnam War. His story is not just one of battlefield bravery, but of unwavering loyalty, the kind that drives a man to stand alone against impossible odds for the sake of others. What makes Chapman's actions even more remarkable is the sheer physical and mental endurance he displayed. Fighting at high altitude in sub-zero temperatures, wounded and exhausted, he maintained the presence of mind to coordinate airstrikes, engage enemy fighters, and make tactical decisions that saved lives. His last stand was not a reckless charge, but a calculated, deliberate effort to hold the enemy at bay long enough for reinforcements to arrive. The SEALs who survived the battle later credited Chapman with saving their lives, and the drone footage of his final moments became a key piece of evidence in recognizing his valor.